everyone, it's Michelle with the Medicine Couch, and I just came back from AAPA 2023, which is the National PA Conference that was just held in Nashville, Tennessee. It was the first time that I've ever attended a national PA conference, and I have lots of thoughts about it. There were definitely some surprises and frustrations that I had. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you and give you some general information if you've ever wondered what these conferences are like or wondering if you should attend. And at the end of the video, I will answer that question that I see a lot of people asking: is it worth it to attend this conference? Now, the first thing I have to say is that I was really surprised by the sheer scale of the conference. AAPA said that there were close to 7,000 PAs that registered for this conference, and there were a lot of people everywhere. So often we work so isolated or work with a mix of nurse practitioners and physicians. It was just really nice to be surrounded by fellow PAs. In addition to the regular CME sessions, there were also cool and extra things like workout sessions in the morning or relaxation and meditation events you could attend throughout the day. And then in the late afternoon and evening, there were also breakout sessions that were for different PA groups, such as PAs in rural medicine or PAs in psychiatry. So that was kind of cool because you could get to meet those people and learn more about those organizations. There was a really large expo that had all kinds of exhibitors from healthcare groups looking to tell you about what they have to offer as employers, to locums and employment companies, to schools talking about their doctorate programs, to pharmaceutical and medical companies and the products that they had. There were also some workshop sessions. Now, these were extra prices, but you could learn things like point of care ultrasound, get better at reading EKGs, learning about arrhythmias, ortho splinting, different things like that. Now, it wasn't all work. There were some fun events that happened, like the Student Quiz Bowl that is a tradition. That event has so much energy, and the students have a great time participating in that. But this year there was a new event that was a lot of fun. It was called PA Night Out, and AAPA actually rented out like 5 or 6 different venues. These were massive restaurants and bars with lots of live music and rooftop bars. It was a really cool event. They had catered food. That it was the same food, but it was available at each venue. It was pretty good, and then you got a drink ticket for the night. Now, this was a fun event, but it wasn't great for networking and actually like meeting new people, mainly because it's Nashville and there's loud live music everywhere, so it was very hard to hear and talk with people. So really, it was just a fun event to go dancing and drinking and listening to music with fellow PAs. As I said, the scale of this conference was massive, and you will definitely get your steps in. One day I got over 14,000 steps. So for those of you who have been wondering, what do you wear to these conferences? I have to tell you that the most important thing is to wear comfortable shoes. You will be doing lots of walking. Now, as far as the rest of your attire goes, most people were just in business casual, so no need to get, super dressy. I would suggest that you bring a coat or light jacket, something to keep you warm, because those conference rooms can get pretty cold. As far as who attended this conference, I'd have to say that was another surprise to me. It seemed like a large portion of the attendees were 35 and under, and there certainly were a lot of students running around. I even ran into a group of PAs who had come from the Netherlands for this conference. They said they have some conferences at home, but nothing on this scale. So it was fun to run into people from another country. It was also fun to run into PAs that you have befriended online or have watched their social media, but have never met them in person. So it was really fun when someone would walk by you and you're like, oh, I know you, and you get to talking. So for me, it was meeting a lot of those people that I have interviewed via Zoom for this channel, but then I got to see them in person. So I'd have to say that was part of the fun of this conference. Having said that, it's not always easy to network at these big conferences. You pass tons of people going to the different sessions, and human nature is people always sit down in the seats in the conference room with no one around them. So sometimes it is a little bit difficult just to strike up conversations with strangers, especially if you're not the most outgoing. AAPA has tried to help with this. They set up different networking nooks around the conference center. And that was kind of a cool idea, but I didn't see a whole lot of people using them. Another way AAPA can help you with all of this is that the app that they have developed for the conference, it's a pretty great app, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But one of the features that it has is it lets you see who all the attendees are that are coming, and it gives you the opportunity to be able to chat with them. So I want to talk a little bit more about this app because I think it really is great, and it did add a lot to the conference. The biggest way it helps is that it has all of the sessions listed, and it gives you a description about each session, tells you a little bit about the presenter. It tells you how much CME it's available for, and if it fits into different tracks. So like if you're a hospitalist, it's got a hospitalist track, and you can see which sessions pertain to your specialty. Additionally, when you're looking at the sessions and it sounds interesting, you can add it to your personal conference planner. And what's great is that it lets you add more than one session for each time slot. So you can go through and just mark them if they sound interesting. Then once you've gone through all the sessions, you can go back and see kind of the ones that are overlapping or competing, and you can decide which one you want to go to and kind of clean up your calendar. Or you could do like I did. Sometimes on slots, there were a couple that sounded really good, and I just left them both on my planner. And that gave me some flexibility when I was there to decide if I wanted to go to a session that was closer or to see what I was feeling at that time. The app was also super handy for helping you to get your CME credit. You don't just get all of the credits because you signed up for the conference. You have to evaluate each session and claim your CME. Now, they did have some areas set up around the conference where you could go do that at a computer, but it was easiest just to complete it on your phone. And another brilliant thing that they did with the app is allow you to claim credits for a session in 15-minute increments. So some of the sessions did overlap, and you could leave a session and then join another session already in progress. Obviously, you don't want to claim credit for that whole session because you weren't there the whole time, but it would let you claim the credit for the amount that you attended. That made it super easy to go through and quickly get your certificates. Now, if you didn't want to download the app and use that, they did have these great schedule guides that were there that you could pick up. They were all over the place, and they had, all the sessions broken out. They had maps of where you can find things. They were super handy. I saw lots of people using those. But like I said earlier, this is a big conference and there are a lot of things to do, and you can't do everything. So while you can just show up and figure out where you want to go and still get plenty out of the conference, I would suggest taking some time before you go and figuring out what it is that you really want to get out of this conference. Do you want to maximize your CME? Then go through and really work that schedule and pack in as much as you can. Or are you wanting to network? Are you wanting to really get to know people and make connections, hunt for a new job, new opportunities, those kind of things? If that's what you want, then make sure you build in time to do that. I would just hate for you to get home after having spent all that money and have regret about how you spent your time at the conference. Now, let's talk about that money. Just right up front, conferences are not cheap. It doesn't matter who's putting them on or where they're at. So this isn't necessarily directed at AAPA, but it's just to talk about what you can expect for expenses. Now, to go to the whole conference, if you are an AAPA member, the cost was $1,150. That is a lot of money. And that right there would eat up a lot of people's CME budget, if they even get CME money. There are some ways you can knock that price down. If you stay in one of the hotel rooms in the hotel block for a minimum of 2 nights, then you can save $200 off of the registration fee. And if you're somebody who's good at planning early and meeting deadlines, you can save up to $300 off of the registration price by registering about 5 months in advance. So there's definitely some ways to mitigate the registration costs. I'd have to say, though, that for me, the biggest problem with this conference was the cost of the hotel rooms. You're staying in downtown Nashville. It is a very touristy place, and the hotel rooms are astronomically expensive. The hotel I stayed in, once taxes and fees were added in, came to over $280 a night. And I stayed for 5 nights. So that means my hotel bill was over $1,400. If you registered early for the conference, that puts the hotel at over twice the cost of the conference itself. It was absolutely ridiculous. Now, I did even try to be frugal here. I tried looking at hotels on like booking.com or Airbnb that were maybe like 10 miles away, but even those were still fairly expensive. And then once you figured in the cost of an Uber back and forth every day, it did not really seem to save a whole lot of money. So I ended up biting the bullet and just staying there in town. Now, another thing about Nashville is that the food was so expensive. I mean, food is getting expensive everywhere, but there just weren't even any cheaper options than the touristy dinner places. I tried Googling looking for supermarkets or even fast food restaurants nearby. And I would say in about a 7 block radius from my hotel, there wasn't anything except for like one Taco Bell. So for a minimum, you're spending like $17 a night just to get some food for dinner. Now, I know $17 isn't a ton, but I just mean if you're not going to go and sit down and have a nice dinner, I just want some cheap, nourishing food. And it was really hard to find. Now, some of you may be wondering, like, do they have food provided at the conference at all? And there was one night, the opening night, there was an event they had at the expo where you got a free drink and you got appetizers and some dessert. But beyond that, there wasn't really food just out and about that you could get, like, Danishes for breakfast or anything like that. But there was an opportunity to get free breakfasts and lunch 4 days of the conference. I think it was Friday through Monday they offered these. And that was by attending the industry sessions, they call them. You just go to those sessions. It is first come, first serve. Now, at these breakfasts or lunches, you're going to be educated on some pharmaceutical that a company has to offer. But that's not a bad thing. It does help you learn a little bit more about medicines you're not that familiar with and ways you could use them in your practice. The last place that I saw the ability to get free food was in the expo center. There were lots of booths that were giving out candy, but some booths also gave out like bags of popcorn. Some were making you cappuccinos or blending up frappuccinos. So definitely check out the expo and find out what free things you can get there. So going back to the cost, if I add up everything that I spent for this conference, so that would be parking at the airport, that would be my flight, that would be the conference registration and the hotels and my food, it was definitely around $3,000 that I spent. Now, because of the way I work locums and PRN, I don't have a CME budget that I get from an employer. On the flip side of that, because I am 1099 and run my own business, I can write off all of those expenses on my taxes, a legitimate business expense for enriching my education as a PA. So don't forget, if you're a 1099, to make sure that you keep your receipts and use that as a business deduction. Now, for those of you who have CME money, most people don't have like $3,000 sitting in a CME pot. So there's a couple things I've heard that people do. Some people have the option of being able to roll over their CME. If they don't use it in 1 year, they can roll it over and have a big, large lump sum the next year. So make sure you check with your company and see if that's something that you could do. That way you could just find free CME to do online 1 year, and then you use all of your lump sum to go to a big conference like this the next year. And I actually did a video before laying out kind of what I think are the top 5 ways to get free CME online, and I'll put a card to that somewhere up here if you want to check that out. Another thing that I've heard people do, and again, you have to check with the policies of your employer, but some people were able to buy like the conference registration and their flight in 1 year and then have the hotel and food receipts and things paid for in another year. I don't think it's available to everybody, but something to check out to try to make this reasonable and affordable for you. Now, one last tip on saving money when you go to these conferences. The conference went from Friday through Wednesday. I was there all 5 days, but there is definitely a difference in attendance. Friday and Monday were medium busy. There were definitely lots of people there and full sessions, but Saturday and Sunday were definitely the big days, as you can imagine. Tons of people everywhere, lots of different sessions, and really fun atmosphere on those days. Come Tuesday and Wednesday, I swear it was like a ghost town. I walked in Tuesday morning totally surprised because there wasn't hardly anyone around, and Wednesday was even worse. So you may consider If you want to get the feel of one of these big conferences and you want to have some of the fun and get to meet fellow colleagues, maybe you only go for like 2 or 3 days of the conference. It doesn't save you a whole lot on the registration fees, but it certainly saves you a whole lot of money on things like the hotel and airport parking and food. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a way to make this happen, but you don't have the budget for a full conference. So now for the big question, and what I think most people wonder about when they think about this huge AAPA conferences is it worth it? Is it worth the money? Well, obviously, I can't answer that for you, but I think for me, the answer would be yes, it is worth it. I don't think it's something I would do every year. I think I would attend my state conference every year and just go to these large conferences every couple of years. But I have to say, there's something very cool about being surrounded by so many fellow PAs. It does really give you a great sense of how strong our profession is. It helps you feel like you're really a part of something. So, just for that cool factor, I'd definitely say it's worth it for that. And of course, the networking opportunities. Now, when it comes to the sessions, I know that a lot of people say, I'd rather go to a more focused conference in my specialty. And that's a totally valid argument. And there are definitely reasons why you'd want to do that. But like I said, AAPA has been thoughtful in how they designed the conference, and they did make those different specialty tracks. So I don't think a lot of people realize, but you can go and get some pretty focused CME for your particular specialty. But beyond the specialties, there also were sessions that you're not going to get at other conferences about the PA profession, and a lot of opportunities to meet, like with NCCPA or AAPA, and get to learn more about them and get some of your questions answered. So that was cool. So yes, overall, I definitely think it's worth attending these conferences for the camaraderie, for the PA focused sessions, and for actually being able to get really good CME. It is very expensive though, so I think that you need to be strategic and really plan on how many days you want to attend the conference and what city you choose. Next year, it's going to be in Houston, which is a massive city, and there is going to be a lot more diversity in choices of hotel and in food options. So I think if you attend a conference that's being held in a city like that, if you maximize and figure out exactly what you want from the conference and attend just the days that you really need, then I think it's a great opportunity, and I think you should definitely experience it and come as often as you can. So I hope this was a good overview and gave you some answers to questions you may have had about this conference. If I didn't address your particular question, feel free to shoot me an email or ask me in the comment section down below. And if you have attended the AAPA conference and want to share your thoughts and your opinion about whether it's worth it or not, put that down below so that other people can learn from you. Now, if you want to meet some of your fellow PA colleagues and learn about some of the cool and amazing things that they're doing all over the world, then you can click on these playlists here. Thanks for joining me, and as always, take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.